Well, kia ora and welcome to this PAROT webinar on using PAROT as a dean and basically doing cohort tracking. So to start off with today, who am I? Well, I'm Jake. I am the founder of PAROT and I went to university, so I get to put a few letters after my name. My background, I was a teacher at Westlake Boys for a couple of years where I was the e-learning coordinator before moving down to Kapiti, where I've been a dean, a head of maths, an assistant principal and the director of IT. I finished up at Kapiti College at the end of last year. And previously I wrote Assay before selling it in 2018. And I'm also involved with NZ Grapher, PAROT and Report It currently. So things for this webinar. As we go through the session today, there is a chat on the right hand side which you can access by hitting the little chat button. If you've got questions, please pop them in there and I'll do my best to answer them either as we go or at the end. And I'm aiming to be done well before 4:15, but if you want to hang around after and ask questions, then you're more than welcome to. And I'm recording this session, so I'll be able to share the recording and slides afterwards. I'll send it out hopefully later today if it comes through, or tomorrow, and then we'll share with everyone in the next PAROT newsletter as well. So what we're going to cover today, we're going to cover the Dean's Dashboard. We're going to cover the tutor and groups dashboard, the summary table, and the NCA snapshot and summary. There are a few questions asked in the chat, or asked in the registration, I should say, about various different things. Some of them we're not going to cover today, but we'll probably cover in a future one just because there's only so much content we can cover in one session. That is the student view and mentoring conversations. That'll be a separate webinar. Student and whānau access with the student portal, we're not going to be covering that, and we're also not going to be looking at automated emails to students, caregivers and staff. Now, a lot of those things are useful for deans, but there's only so much time we've got today, and trying to make sure that this is, an impactful session rather than covering too much and not doing anything well. So today we're going to look at this cohort tracking. So to access that, on the main PAROT dashboard, you click on the dashboard button. Just a quick side note on that, to access the Dean's part of the dashboard, you need to have the Dean's permission and the user permissions. So that's accessed through the admin area. So whoever your PAROT admin is for your school will be able to go in and give the Dean's access just by ticking the appropriate tick box next to their name. So the Dean's dashboard, if you click on it, will give you something that looks a little bit like this. When you go in, I've come and had a look at the Dean's dashboard here, and in the top right there is a settings button. That settings button brings up this pop over here, which lets you view all of the things that you can turn on or off in this dashboard. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the different things that you can display. What it will do is each time you come back on the same computer, it will remember what your preference or what you were displaying from last time, and you won't need to reselect it if you want to look at the same thing. Up the top here, we've got various different filters. So we've got filters here for year level. So at the moment, I'm just looking at year 13. We've got filters for ethnicity, house, tutor, and student type. So it may be that you want to just look at your regular students, you want to exclude your foreign fee payers, and we've also got total response ethnicity. The total response ethnicity is really useful for looking at Pacifica students, because if a student identifies as both Māori and Pacifica, then in prioritized ethnicity, then they'll just be counted as Māori. So if you want to look at all of the students that identify as Pacifica, you need to use that total response ethnicity. So that's the filters across the top. Now let's come and have a look at the different columns. So the first group of columns that we can add are the flag and the details. So the flag shows this column here. These are set up differently for each school, but these are the flags that are showing come through from Kmart. And then with the details, we've got gender, ethnicity, year level, house, tutor, and student type. Hopefully most of those ones are fairly self-explanatory as to what they are. And so we'll go on to the next one. So the next one we've got is attendance. Now there are various different attendance things that you can add. There's the basic attendance, and then there's detailed on 5 days, 15 days, and YTD stands for year to date. So a few things on here. HDP is an abbreviation for half day percentage, or half day present, and then percentage being percentage. So that's half day percentage present for the year. And then we've got half day percentage present for the last 15 days. Now it's not showing the screenshot because this was taken very early in the year, but this column here will show the trend. So if kids have had a higher attendance in the last 15 days than for the year, then their trend will be showing up, and vice versa, it will be showing down. Late count in the last 15 days, question mark count in the last 15 days, and truancy count in the last 15 days. And then there are various detailed versions of each of those. The other attendance one that I really like to look at is this weeks below 80. The other thing we've just finished adding in the last couple of days is now if you hover over any of the headings, it'll give you a detailed description of what they are. This is, yeah, I think it was finished being added yesterday or the day before. So that's there now. So if you're not sure what one of the headings means, if you hover over, it'll explain what it is. And this shows the number of weeks where students' attendance has been below 80%. Now, all of these columns, if you click on the header, it will sort it. So it will bring those students who are high or low to the top. And if you click it again, it will reverse the order. The weeks below 80% is quite nice because that highlights students who are having a little bit off here, a little bit off here, a little bit off here, a little bit off here. They're ones that you can probably get behavioral shift patterns in, whereas those students who are genuinely sick for a week and then are back at school, you're probably not going to be able to, interventions there probably aren't going to make much difference. So that is the weeks below 80. The next up is STAR. So STAR here highlights, based on the different ministry colors, we've got orange, red, and yellow. So yellow being up between 5 and just shy of 10 days, orange being the 10 to 15, and red being 15 or above. And it groups it by term. So we've got term 1, term 2, term 3, and term 4. And again, all of these columns are clickable. So if you click on the header, it'll group them all together. There's a few other functions that you can add with that STAR functionality in there that we covered in the last webinar. So if you're kind of curious about some of the other things that we can do there, that's the recording for that on the PAROT website. Next up is pastoral. Now, this is the number of pastorals recorded for students. For those of you using KMAR, the categories are attendance, classroom, discipline, guidance, other, and uniform. And this here just gives you the count of them. There's also, for Helix users, I think they're positive, negative, and support are the 3 categories that you've got there. So you've got the count of all of the pastoral, the count in each of those categories. If you're using demerits, they pull through, and points pull through. We've also got class effort. So this here shows the average class effort for the year or the last 15 days for the schools that are using it. If you don't have the class effort data coming through, this option won't show. Next up is the NC. Oh, I thought it was going to be NCA, but no, it's custom qualifications. So for those schools that are using custom qualifications, this data all flows through to the dashboard as well. So in this particular school here, we've turned on the junior and the PAT data. They've also got some ASTL data, internally report data in there. And you can choose which of those, again, you want to display. For this school, they do not achieved, developing, achieved, merit, and excellence. So it's kind of a NCA scale, but with that one extra, that developing in there. So you can see their average across all of their subjects, and you can see how many things have been passed for the year and how many have assessed. And then same with our PAT data, we've got some Stay 9 data in here. Obviously passing PAT isn't a relevant one, but it just pulls through the same columns for each custom qualification. Next up is NCA. So we're looking at a year 13 cohort here. So we've got data kind of across the different areas here. So this kind of gives an overall snapshot. We've got our level 1 literacy, our level 1 numeracy, whether or not they got it from the common assessment activity or whether or not they got it through the other pathways. And then their status for level 1, 2, and 3. So if we're looking at level 3, we can see here this kid here needs 48 credits, whereas the one just below only needs 16. And some of the students, like this one here, just needs literacy to get level 1. So that shows kind of a quick snapshot of where they're at. Then we've also got UE literacy. Now the columns I use here are reading, writing, and total. So if we look at this student here, this kid has got 6 credits that can be used for reading, 4 credits that can be used for writing, and 6 credits in total. So those numbers need to end up greater than 5, 5, and 10. This means you don't need to think about where the both can kind of end up. It's just as long as the numbers are greater than 5, 5, or 10, 5, 5, and 10. So we need 4 credits in total, and they really need to be writing credits for that student. The next up is UE subjects possible. Now, this makes a couple of assumptions. It's assuming that the students are doing kind of regular subjects and they're not engaged in learning through the multi-curriculum, because if they are, there's a couple of extra subjects there that are available to them. So it's assuming that. And it's looking at the total number of subjects that are possible, and then also UE subjects that have been passed, which is these ones. So this is based on the entries on KMR or Helix. So it assumes that your entries are up to date. And so that shows you which students have got a UE pathway available to them and which ones don't. And again, all of those are sortable, so you can click on the column headings and it will sort them for you. Next up is level 1, 2, and 3 in NCA current year. This just gives some more details on the credits that have been gained in the particular year. So for this one here, we're looking at level 2 results for the year 13s. We can see the number of not achieved credits at level 2 or above, and then achieved merit and excellence credits, the total credits they've passed, the total attempted, and the percentage that they've passed. So they're all different figures that could be useful when you're kind of going, okay, all right, this kid here is only on 86% pass. Do they need a little bit of extra support, or were they doing some subjects that were quite a bit harder for them? Maybe. I've anonymized all of these, so I don't know who the students are. The NCA current year also has an extra column in it, which is GPA. A lot of schools are using this to work out things like, ducks and those sorts of things. Then cohort tracking, literacy and numeracy. So literacy and numeracy are beautiful, lovely, simple qualifications that there's only one way to get. Or not. There are 5 different ways you can get literacy and 4 different ways you can get numeracy. So trying to pull that together in the easiest possible way I could. So we've got some basic columns. Do they have level 1 literacy and do they have numeracy? Then we've got results for the 3 different CAAs. We don't have the multi-language ones. We've just got the English ones in this table. The credits used for literacy and numeracy. So this top student here is using 20 credits towards literacy and numeracy. It does mean they've got literacy and numeracy, but those credits aren't available to be used elsewhere in NCA. And then credits used at level 2 and level 3. So particularly for your level 2 and 3 students, that's one to keep a slightly closer eye on, because if they're using a bunch of their level 2 and 3 credits towards literacy and numeracy, then it might mean that they're less likely to pass the overall overall NCA level. And then you've got your UE literacy data in there as well. Next up is SAC. So this has been added in the last 2 weeks. So on Kmart, there is the ability to enter in SAP conditions. What this does is this pulls it through and displays it on the dashboard. This is quite useful, particularly if you're using like the class dashboard. A teacher can bring up their own, their individual class and see all of the SAC conditions for the students in their class with like 2 clicks. Yeah, it just pulls straight through from Kmart as long as you're using the latest version of the file. And all of the information on that was in the last newsletter that went out. The next one is one of my favorite ones, which is the flags. So often with students, we will look at one area and then we'll look at another area and we'll look at another area. What the flags allow us to do is kind of look at areas where students are struggling, or finding students that are struggling across the board. So what this does is it highlights in blue the top 10% of the students you're looking at, and in red the bottom 10%. And it does it across 5 categories. So we've got credits passed this year, the percentage of credits passed this year, the number of pastorals, and that's just a raw number of pastorals. Sometimes the pastorals that are in there are positive things, but in general, the students that are needing more interventions are the ones that are struggling slightly more. Attendance in the last 3 weeks and attendance for the year. And then what it does is it counts up the number of red dots you've got and the number of blue dots. So in general, when I'm sitting down and looking at schools, if you click on that red dot and you sort it so that all of the higher ones are at the top, those are the students that are your high flyers, the ones that you need to be keeping an eye on. Like with everything, I'll say it for this as well, this isn't going to tell you what's going on inside a kid's life. There are obviously multiple different things that are going on inside students' lives. This might just wiggle its eyebrows suggestively and say, hey, have a look over here. And if you know the story of what's going on inside these kids' lives, then that's great. It's hopefully highlighting, or if it highlights some students that you don't know the story, then that's an excellent opportunity to go and work out what the story is for those kids. The next up is the notes. So the notes allow you to quickly record notes about a student for quick reference. Now, this doesn't write back to Kmart or Helix. The idea is to help you remember details about a student. Any details notes you really should be storing in Kmart or Helix. And there's 3 columns here. So there's a notes column, an actions column, and a tutor notes. So the notes column and the actions are only visible to people who have got the Dean's access. The tutor notes are visible to everyone and editable by everyone. When I was in charge of a cohort, I found this was really good. I had a cohort of about 300 odd students that I was working with the Dean and trying to hold all of the information on all 300 of those kids was challenging, to say the least. So what I'd often do is I just put a quick little note in there next to them, so that when I'm looking through that list and going, cool, you know, why is that kid's attendance low? You know, just next to the name, it's got, you know, back surgery, August. And so then I can go, cool, I know what the story is there, and it just helps reduce that cognitive load. I've found remembering some of those details a bit harder after my head knock. So just kind of having them, and there is a quick reference when you're trying to remember details on all 300 kids, made my life a lot easier. And then what it also meant is when a kid came up that didn't have those notes in there, I was like, oh, okay, this is a new kid. I need to find out what the story is with this one. With these notes, I suggest if you are going to use them, think about how you're going to use them effectively. Don't just rush in and use them. Kind of come up with a strategy. The columns will automatically adjust in width based on your screen size. If you get too many, it will overflow off to the right-hand side and you'll get a scroll bar at the bottom. But you can't manually adjust the width of the columns. But as you if you type in some notes, they often start off quite narrow, but next time you come back to the page, they'll be a bit wider. So the last one is the conditional formatting. Some people love conditional formatting. I'm a big fan of it, but some people really don't. So it's one of those things that you can turn on or off if you would like. So you can see the difference here between with conditional formatting on and with conditional formatting off. Not all of the columns have conditional formatting available, but a lot of them do. So if there's any that you notice that there's not some conditional formatting where there should be, let me know and I can look at adding them in. Right, the next up is the different dashboards. So there is a tutor dashboard, a class dashboard, and a group dashboard. Now, these dashboards allow you to look at different things. So the tutor dashboard automatically pulls up the students that are in your tutor class from Kmart or Helix. So this is really useful for tutor teachers to be able to come in and get a quick snapshot on their class. The next one over is class. This will pick up any timetabled classes from the timetable, and then you can filter down and view individual ones. So for things like we were discussing before with the special assessment conditions, you can come in and you could pick your, I'll take me as an example, my year 13 calculus class, and I can see what students in my class have got their special assessment conditions and what I need to do to, make sure that I'm accommodating for those students. And it's all just there on nice one page. And if a student's special assessment conditions are updated on Kmart, it'll flow nicely through to that dashboard. The other one is the group dashboard. A lot of schools are using this for sports teams managers or coaches. They've got rules in and around, or policies in place that students with less than a certain percentage of attendance can't do extracurricular activities. This makes it super easy for a team manager to just jump in and have a look at their groups. So it might be you bring up your basketball team, you can quickly see the attendance for the kids in your class, and you can be proactive about encouraging those kids to be attending, because we all know that the teachers who are running those extracurricular activities often have really special relationships with those kids, and can often get some more shift than what some of the other school staff can have as well. So it just makes it easy for people to be able to monitor the groups or teams that they're taking. The other one is any group that's on Kmart will come through. So it might be that you've got an at-risk group that you're tracking as a dean that you want to look at in there, and that all flows through. The next one up is the summary table. So the summary table brings in data from all of the different groups, and you can group it in different ways. So you can group it by tutor, house, year level, or ethnicity. So this one here is grouped by tutor. So here's all of my different tutors. I'm just looking at year 12 because the school I was working with this one had year level deans, but you can also come in and filter by house if you have house deans, and you can kind of see some patterns there. So we can look at here we've got some classes here with much lower rates of achievement in level 1, and vice versa. So I think, yes, we do. We go through the different columns in here. So the first one is attendance. So there's a few different ones here. So the first one is the average half-day attendance for the year and for the last 15 days, and the trend, is it going up or down? The percentage of students regularly attending. So regularly attending is 90% or more. And so we can see this class here has got 68% regularly attending. This one's down at 60%, just below 60%. The average days late for the year. The next one is the outstanding question marks that are greater than 5 days. This is a really good indicator of, are there any teachers there that might need some extra support? If there's a whole lot of question marks that are more than 5 days old, it might be that those tutor teachers need some extra support from their dean following up. And then also students who have got more than 10 question marks. If you've got a whole bunch of students in your class with more than 10 question marks, it might be that that teacher needs a little bit of extra support. And that might be that that teacher is doing everything that they're supposed to be doing. They've just got a lot of kids that they're really struggling with. Or it might be that that teacher isn't quite as good with the follow-up and needs some extra support in place to help them manage those things. The next one is attendance codes. So different schools are looking at different things. The main ones in here, though, that schools are looking at is latenesses, truant, and question marks. And we've got that for the year and for the last 15 days. Then we've got some pastorals. So This is a summary of the number of pastorals for the last year or the last 15 days. So YTD being year to date and 15 days being the last 15 years. So you can, sorry, last 15 days, not years. You can see and hear the number of pastorals, the number of demerits, and the number of points. If you're using this for a house competition, you could, instead of grouping by tutor, you could group by house, and you could look at the number of points or the number of demerits, and you could be awarding things based on that. You could also be looking at, is there any classes in there where there's, a whole bunch of issues happening that we need to be stepping in and providing some extra support for. Regularly attending, so we've got the percentage of students that are less than 70%, between 70 and 80%, 80 to 90, and 90% and above. So again, just are there any classes there where, we might need some extra support in place because the kids just aren't turning up. And then we've also got STAR. We've got term 1 days, term 2, term 3, and term 4. You can turn as many or as few of them on as you'd like. And we're looking at the percentage of students with less than 5 days in a term, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, or greater than 15 days. Class effort. So if your school uses class effort, it's the average class effort for the year or the last 15 days. I don't have a screenshot of that one, but I do have a screenshot of the NTA. So this is looking at the percentage of students with level 1, 2, and 3, and with level 1 lit, level 1 numeracy, and UE lit, particularly for like junior tutor classes. This is a good way to go. Cool, is there some junior tutor classes in there that might need a little bit of extra support for their literacy or numeracy to help them get across the line. So that is the summary table. Next up, we're going to have a look at the NCA snapshot and summary. So the NCA snapshot and summary, on the left, you can change the type here between literacy, numeracy, level 1, level 2, and level 3, and you can put in different splits. And what this does is it just produces a graph that summarizes all of the data there. So looking at this, for literacy, overall, just under half of our kids don't have literacy, just over half do. That's obviously across all of the year levels, though. This kind of cuts it off just before the year level breakdown. So it may be, if you want to look at how the year 11s are doing, on the left-hand side here, you might want to filter in and just look at the year 11s. The summary tab takes that and gives you some high-level statistics in written form, but then also lists each of the students. So in this particular one, we're looking at a level 2 summary for year 13 students, and just looking at those students that are currently attending. So we can see the breakdown of UE literacy and numeracy, the breakdown of level 1 and level 2, the breakdown and the percentage with merit and excellence. And then when we scroll a little bit further down, I can see that these 3 kids here just need between 1 and 10 credits. So they are getting really quite close. They've got a lot of those level 2 credits, but then just not quite there. And this kid here, they just need literacy and numeracy. The one above just needs literacy. So basically giving you a list of those kids that might need some academic support there. So that's a kind of a bit of an overview of all of the different areas there in that dashboard. There's also an averages tab, which I'm not going to look at today, but it gives a kind of a high level picture of the cohort. So now's a great opportunity for you to ask some questions in the chat if you'd like to. The other thing I'd love you to do, and I will put the link to this in the chat if I can, copy link address. I would love it if you could take 30 seconds just over to fill in that Google form for me. That helps me work out what works well about these sessions, what doesn't work well, so that when I do these in future, I can try and make them as useful as possible for you guys. So yeah, if you've got any questions, is there a feature that allows for a bit of a deeper dive into unjustified absences? Yes, there is. It will, that's in the attendance analysis section. So on the main dashboard, there is an attendance tab, and you can dig in there into the different codes that are being recorded for the unjustified absences. And the recording of this will be sent out to everyone who was in the session. I'll try and do that tomorrow or later today, depending on how long it takes to come through from Google, but I'll send it out in the next day or so. And who can see the notes? The notes, so there's 3 columns of notes. Let me come back to that page. This one. So there are 3 columns of notes. So notes and actions are only visible to users that have the dean's permission. The tutor notes are visible to everyone that has access to PAROT. So anyone that's a teacher with an email address on KMail will be able to log in and see the tutor notes, but only those who have been given dean's access can see the notes and the actions. Again, I wouldn't put super massive detailed notes in here, but the idea with this was there were quite a few schools that were running separate spreadsheets and recording a bunch of stuff in there. It's just kind of a quick little level snapshot. Anything big and detailed should be recorded on your student management system, either KMail or Helix. Will a low number of pastoral entries show as red or blue? I think that's a single color scale. So it goes from white for low through to red for high, I think. But I can't remember off the top of my head. If it's doing something weird and you think it should be doing something different, flip me an email, because I think that's one of the things that makes PAROT great, is that we get lots of feedback from people, and that makes it better for everyone. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any other questions at any other point, feel free to let me know. Couple of other things to note. You can vote on the things that you think are most important to have on PAROT on the main dashboard. Click on that development planning button and you can vote there. And also, if you would like some future webinars, please let me know what you want them on, because obviously if you let me know what they're on, want them on, I can make them as useful as possible for you. That's what the development planning looks like. You can come in and you can click all of these up or down arrows depending on which ones you would like to see. And there is also a link here to all of the guides, which will be where the video ends up as well on the PAROT website. There's a whole bunch of stuff there, and we're slowly working on adding more. If there's anything there that you feel like is missing, again, let me know.